All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the TCG Cast. We are talking about trading card games of all sorts and sizes, and there are a lot of trading card games coming out. We have got the new set Into the Inklands from Lorcana. There is the new Altered TCG that is wrapping up their Kickstarter in less than 2 weeks from the time of this recording. But this episode is going to be designated to Star Wars Unlimited because our team, myself, James, and Greg, were just blessed beyond measure, and we're so just jazzed that Fantasy Flight Games invited us to come out to Minnesota last weekend to open packs, play on live stream, meet a bunch of content creators, and we have a ton of stories to share with everyone here. So let's talk about Star Wars Unlimited, and I'm going to introduce our co-hosts, our co-pilots, as you will. James and Greg, how is everybody doing?
I am absolutely thrilled to be here. It's been a great event, and I'm sure we'll go through all the details of it now. But yeah, I think that's all we have to say to lead it off. But yeah, James, how are we doing?
Oh, I'm feeling great. I know I haven't been able to be on in maybe a month or so. It's been a while, but going to this event with you all was a special treat, and I feel reinvigorated, ready to jump in and talk about TCGs.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that a week ago, we're recording on a Saturday evening, we were playing Twin Suns games and drafting packs with the designers and heads of Fantasy Flight Games. Like, what a crazy story to think about, that we're sitting in a room playing games, and then at 10 o'clock, they kicked us out. We went to the hotel lobby, and some people were playing on a table. Some people were playing around like a small table on carpet. And then a bunch of us were sitting like in the corner on concrete drafting. It was like college all over again during like a pre-release where there's just not enough space, and you just find a spot in the ground, you start drafting and playing games because screw it, we're gonna have fun.
100%. And honestly, that showed me how dedicated the team at FFG was. The fact that like they were out with us till 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe later. That's when I called it at night. 4 o'clock in the morning, playing on floors, tables, grounds, whatever we could play on. It just showed how passionate they were, and I had so much fun playing with them until my eyes could not stay open.
Yeah, Greg and I had late flights, so we swore to each other like we are not stopping until these people force us to go home. What time do we end? Like 5 o'clock in the morning or something?
5:30, something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
The only reason we didn't continue, we were going to play a Twin Suns game, and someone was like, I think mine's in the car. Also, I'm going to go home. Because we were like, oh, we can just play a Twin Suns game. It's almost 6 o'clock. Breakfast will start in an hour. And they're like, sure, why not? And I was like, well, maybe we should go to bed.
It's okay. Yeah, maybe the Firelight Grill might be able to hit us up for some breakfast, but alas, didn't happen. But, it's actually so funny because like I was about ready. I was like absolutely tired from the whole day because it was like a whole day of playing Star Wars, and we had the celebration with the open bar, all that good stuff, right? And like after that, I was like, you know what? I think we're gonna call it early tonight. And then I got a message from James and Sugi just like, you should come down at some point. Even like James is like, if you ever get a second wind, you're gonna want to come back downstairs.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
It was a party. It was a party.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, I'm glad I definitely decided to man up, go back down, and play some more Star Wars.
I'm glad you did too.
Yeah, I'm never going to tell anyone what to do, but I was like, you're going to want to come back down.
You don't want to miss this.
I just needed some battery recharging time, like a good hour and a half, and I was like, I'm ready.
It was a good
That's
call.
fair. I took like a 45-minute break where I showered and just kind of like sat in my room and drank some water, rehydrated, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to go, because it had been a long day. I mean, like I guess we could kind of start here. So Friday, everybody flies in. We hang out. We have a dinner. We each there's 3 big tables, and there's groups of designers and developers at each table. So we're hanging out. We're talking with the Tabletop Misfits guys. So we're having a ton of fun. Xander's there. Jeremy wasn't there. Who else was there? Josh was there. John. There's tons of people. And dinner was great. It was just kind of fun to like start the whole event just hanging out and being friends, just meeting people and chatting.
Yeah, no cards, just friends.
No cards. Watching y'all use the drink tickets while I'm getting orange juice and Sprite.
Oh, you mean Greg used the drink tickets?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Greg
okay,
used the
so
drink
here's
tickets.
the thing. I want to clear my name real quick. There's not a whole lot of times where you can spend Monopoly money and get
That's true.
beverages.
It's
get
very
cocktails. So I'm like, I felt like I wanted to seize the opportunity. So yeah, I had some Dwinkies, as the Zoomers call them. And, it was a good time. It was a good time.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, Friday night was pretty low key. We played some games. Oh, shout out to Kaijudo fans. We got some Kaijudo in.
Thanks, Greg, for teaching me.
Yeah, y'all were playing some Lorcana before I got in. How did that go?
I think we played one game in total, and it was Ruby Amethyst versus Steel Song. The quintessential set 2 matchup, and then
classic rivals.
Yeah, I forget too much about the details of the game, but I know that James got it in the end.
I think that was the theme of the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny because people were talking people were boasting, the good old card game banter, just like, oh, I'm undefeated all weekend, and I just walk around and people are asking my record. I say, I'm defeated. I am incredibly defeated. I don't think I won a single game of Star Wars. No, wait, I won some draft games. I went against Jim Cartwright. That's what matters. You
played against Jim. Yeah, I was going to say you got Jim. That's a pretty hefty statement. James is going to have to tell his undefeated story because he's like, I'm undefeated, and now we played a game of Twin Sons. I was like, I have bad news, homie.
Yeah, Sugi was like that. Basically, that boxer who's undefeated their whole career, and then they take that one really late match in their late 40s. They're like, you know what? I got one more in me, and then they lose. That's how I felt. I was winning all day, back to back to back, and then Sugi's at 3 a.m. like, you want to play a Twin Sons game? I'm like, sure, why not? And he just destroyed me with a Death Star Stormtrooper.
It was old man syndrome. I'm playing Director Krennic, old man, and Grand Moff Tarkin, old man. And all I did was so James plays all of his stuff in space. I'm like, I'm going to lose this game. So I'm going to go all in Wolf on Wall Street. I play a 3-1 Stormtrooper.
Yep.
And then I just keep using Grand Moff Tarkin to buff this little dude over and over until, what was it, turn 3? I'm swinging for 9.
You swung for 9, yeah. It was intense. And I'm just in space with a bunch of spaceships, and I'm like, oh no, I have nothing to stop this guy.
So you got this one on the ground Stormtrooper, and James has got what? You have Millennium Falcon, the A-Wing.
Yeah, I'm playing the whole Sabine, Leia. I was playing basically a Sabine, Leia, Twin Sons Rebel deck. It was just throwing everything Rebel at you. And unfortunately, I was drawing all space units. So yeah, it was a lot of Squadron A-Wings and Millennium Falcons that were not touching your Stormtrooper whatsoever.
Yeah, I drew the nuts because it was turn 1, played the 3-1, then activate Grand Moff Tarkin to make him a 4-2. Then on turn 2, I played the Stormtrooper that lets me attack with another body. It gives it +2/+0. So I'm swinging for 6.
Yeah.
So I've got a 6-2.
Every turn.
No. Well, it was a 6-2 with that. Then I buff it again with Grand Moff Tarkin. So now it's a 5-3. And then I've got a 2-2 on board. And then the next turn I played the exact same Stormtrooper. So now I'm swinging for 7. And then 2 more from the other Stormtrooper. It was just nuts. It was just this compounding interest. It's what you want money to do in real life, but it never happens. And so it felt kind of dumb because it's yeah, my Stormtrooper is bigger than your Millennium Falcon. I'm sorry, what? It was hilarious.
It was insane because I think I carried over that deck from this was sort of the way the night went was every time I tried to escape to go to sleep, because I was exhausted, it was someone else pulled me in. So John Leo and a couple other devs were like, no, you can't go. You got to play Twin Sons. I'm like, you're right. I haven't played Twin Sons yet. And they're like, we already built our deck, so you got 5 minutes. Hurry up. And so I'm sitting there scrambling. I'm looking at stacks of cards that are all sleeved in different sleeves. And I'm just shoving them together. Okay, let's do Sabine. Let's do Leia. Let's do Rebels.
Yeah, I kid you not. The deck had Luke sleeves and blue Star Wars back sleeves, maybe even a third type in there. And I look over, I see James playing. First of all, no chairs because there's no chairs. So he was
no
standing, kneeling, or whatever on the table, right? I just look over. I'm just like, James, is that a multi-sleeved deck? And he's like, I was rushed.
They would not let me. I was like, I think I should re-sleeve all this. We don't care. Let's play. And I'm like, are you sure? I was literally sweating because not only am I playing against 3 devs, I'm playing Twin Sons for the first time and I'm rushing my deck build. I'm like, this is going to be embarrassing. But I will tell you, I somehow still won. I don't know how that happened, but I ended up winning. Me and one of the
Wow.
devs kind of like tag teamed against the other two, and then like near the end, he tried to betray me, and I was like, "Haha, I betrayed you first." and I was able to win, just barely by a couple points.
It's okay. Next thing you know, in set 8 or whatever set they're on right now in development, there will be if you're playing against James Reimer, win the game card.
Listen,
if you notice we don't get invited to events again, it's because of James.
Listen, guys, I had a conspiracy that everybody was letting me win this weekend because I don't know why. Not just in Star Wars, but even Kaijudo in Lorcana. I felt so bad for Greg because we kept playing Kaijudo. I was just like literally winning back to back to back. Did you win any of those?
I probably won like 1 or 2, but honestly, you don't have to feel bad for me at all. I had a great time. It was a grand old weekend. And honestly, the biggest thing about me playing Duel Master / Kaijudo with people is just if I get a sense that they like the game, that I win in that case if someone likes my favorite card game. So
I had a lot of fun.
and you definitely liked it. So James, even though I didn't really win, I did win. I won, James.
That's a good way to look at it. I love that.
Yeah.
Actually, while we're on this topic, what did everyone build for their? Did you get to play Twin Suns, Greg?
I did. So I played in a 5-man pod. It was right before we got kicked out of the event hall, like Wisdom Gaming. It was after like the celebration and things. And I played with Dan from Main Deck and crew. And we were about to get kicked out. So Twin Suns, how it ended up playing, it was 5-man, which seemed to play just fine. Of course, like you had to wait a little bit for the turn cycle to get back around to you, which of course is, just a little bit, and you gotta have some patience for that. But also at the very end, when we were about to get kicked out, we just decided to bully someone out of the game. So it just kept on swinging because we're like, okay, we're about to get kicked out. We just got to figure out. And so I played the green 2-cost thing. I forget exactly what it's called. Maybe it's something Starfighter that allows you to basically kill him to then restand one of your guys and then swing with it. And so I had like the swoop racer, the 4/3 in cunning, and I was like, all right, I'll swing at the base. All right, I'll play the guy. I'll swing at the base. And so everyone at the table was just like, all right, we really got to get out of here, but we got to wrap up this game. So let's just bully someone. And that actually highlights a really interesting rule of Twin Suns, right? Where it's like, the game doesn't end. For those of you who don't know, the game doesn't end when everyone's knocked out. It actually ends when the first player's knocked out. Yeah. Then you have one more round around the table until the phase ends, I think is the official term in the game. And then you compare life totals. And then whoever has the most remaining life on the base is the winner. And so what really mattered there is that we weren't actually playing for like, who wins. There wasn't any politicking. It was just like, we're about to get kicked out of this event. Let's just start bullying someone. And so bully we did.
Wow.
I love that.
That's just gross.
Yeah. But I did play a game of Twin Suns. Was it the intended way? Was it the developer intended way to experience Twin Suns? Probably not, considering it was 5 players and the game ended the way it did. But it was a lot of fun.
I love that. Did you have to build your Twin Sun deck in a matter of minutes as well?
I did. Well, the good news is that they were in a pot of 4, so they were building and playing. So I was kind of spectating as I was building mine. But I built Chewbacca and Jin, so very creature combat focus. Yeah,
I forgot about that.
But it's my deck's pretty fun. Shout out to Xander Tabler as well. I gave him my Twin Suns list. I'm just like, can you give me a dankness score out of 10? He's like, dankness score out of 10. Keep in mind, it was like 4 a.m. at this point. We were all just losing it, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll give it a solid 6. And he told me to make it better, I should slot in Luke Skywalker Legendary, which thankfully I pulled in the draft that we just played prior, and the lightsaber from the starter deck. And I said, well, if I slot those 2 cards in, would you at least give me a 7? He's like, I'll give you a 7. So the good news is that I'm at least average according to the grading scale and Tabler eyes, and I think that's what matters, right?
That's all
we gotta impress that FFG crew.
The dankness score. I don't even know what's the rating? Do you want to be more dank?
I mean, probably. I was never quite clear on that, to be honest.
You sound unsure about the response. You're like, maybe?
I think I was never quite clear on whether or not a higher dankness score meant better, but I would like to assume that it does. I would like to assume that.
Well, we'll have to get the dankness levels higher, and then we'll have Xander come on and we'll play a 4-player.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We need Xander back on, and I'm hoping that one day when I win against everyone in Twin Suns, he'll give me a 10 out of 10, maybe that's a tall order.
It's
perhaps. That's a
Well,
little bit too
y'all
much
y'all
to
better
ask for.
start getting your webcams ready so we can do some multiplayer
Oh,
online.
I'm looking
Oh,
forward
for
to
sure.
Sugi and I already got a case. I think James is about to.
I'm gonna order this weekend for sure.
Yeah,
in.
shout out to Alchemist Refuge.
Yeah, shout out to our sponsor, Alchemist Refuge. We are getting all of our Star Wars stuff from Mr. Medina, but you know that this game is hot when all three of us are buying a case. Like
100%.
that is not something we do. Normally we'll buy we'll get like 4 or 5, maybe 3 to 4
I
booster
didn't even buy a
boxes.
case of Lorcana.
I
don't think
I
I
don't
bought
think
a
I've done
box
that
of
either.
Lorcana.
No, I've bought many cases of Lorcana.
I think what's so great about it and why I'm so quick to do the case buy is because opening a pack is so refreshing. Like I played TCGs my whole life, and there's just something special about opening a pack with like 16 cards, and like every card in it has an opportunity to somewhat surprise you. In the front, you got bases and leaders that could be rares. You have full art hyperspaces in the middle, then you have rares and hollows in the back. Like it's just like the entire pack is a treat. So I will definitely open a case.
Yeah, your video on Twitter sparked that thought in me because I was like, why do I love cracking packs more than anything I've ever done in years? And you hit the nail right on the head. There's just something everywhere. There's hyperspace. So for those who don't know, hyperspace card is a full art card, but that's the FFG term in Star Wars Unlimited. But there's hyperspace commons, uncommons, rares, legendaries. So like the front of a pack has 2 cool cards. The middle of a pack could have something really cool. The end of a pack has something really cool. Like this is the only game I'm not, and I think you mentioned this too. I'm not just gonna like throw the front 8 cards into a bin and then look for the rare card. Because like with Pokemon or Magic, it's like, oh look, commons, trash, uncommons, maybe throw that in a bin. What's my rare, my mythic? Cool, next pack. Because like I was even opening packs with my fiance, and she was like, well, I don't understand why you just jump to the back. Isn't there cool stuff in the middle? I was like, no. She was like, let me open some packs. And after like pack 5, she's like, okay, I get it. There's nothing really here. But I told her about Star Wars Unlimited. She's like, you're going to have to let me open one of those booster boxes. Like, okay, babe. Okay. But like she saw some of the packs that people had posted on Facebook. She was like, or YouTube. And she's like, there's something everywhere. And I was like,
yes,
James said that too. Huh. And like my fiance is not a trading card gamer. So the fact that James is on that frequency and my fiance, who is not into games at all, is in that same frequency, it's like, oh, FFG did something really smart here. There's something for everyone because you don't know what you're going to get. Because like every other game, it's like, all right, first 9 cards, throw them in the bin. Let's see what I get next pack. Star Wars Unlimited? No, you're searching for all kinds of fun stuff. And some of these crazy packs, you can get like a hyperspace common and uncommon, or like a hyperspace rare and uncommon. Like you can see multiple hyperspaces in a single pack. There's all kinds of crazy rarity pulls.
Right. There's a couple things I want to say about the structure of a booster pack, because I think you guys hit on a lot of great points. This is probably the biggest for me, and this might be a controversial take or whatever, but like the foils are real. They're super shiny, right? They're possibly bendy. And here's the thing about, like, I know that people talk about like, oh, foils curl, things like that. I double or triple sleeve my decks. That's never been an issue for me. And so just like, honestly, the shinier the cardboard, the better. Of course, Lorcana has like the cold foil approach. I think Flesh and Blood has also implemented that, but it's like, oh no, they just don't do it for me. It feels like the foil is like through one of those like anti-glare Dragon Shield sleeves. And so it's just like the foil is like super muted. And so the fact that FFG kind of went like all out on this foiling process and like everything's super shiny and with extended art border, like this is what's to die for within trading card game design, or at least product design, right? And then also, this is a genius move. When drafting the game, of course, it goes, you draft the leaders first, right? So you pull out the base and the leader. Since they're paper boosters, in order not to see the rest of the pack, what you can do is actually just rip the top of it and then pull out the first 2 cards from the pack. And so it's like, oh my gosh, like this product line, or at least I'm sure maybe James might be able to speak of this as well as our Mr. Product Designer, right? on the show, right? But like, just like everything just seems so carefully thought out. There's tokens for all the damage and different like counters in the game. Like there's like that pack thing. There's the fact that like the starter decks have all the manuals and they're wrapped in like the nice little paper, the parchment paper with like little cardboard deck boxes that actually fit sleeved cards, by the way. It's like they did not mess around. I feel like this is like, in terms of product design, this is a 10 out of 10 launch for a TCG.
I have to agree with you. When you just mentioned starter decks, even the smallest detail, which is usually something that aggravates people in other games, they have exclusive cards in the starter decks, like I Am Your Father or C3PO and R2D2. And instead of saying, let's put one copy in here and make you buy 3 of the decks, they put 3 copies in it, which is a play set. So it's like you don't have to buy multiple copies of the starter deck to just have these cards. And those little details just show that they actually thought through what the experience is for players and not just like a business model of like what's going to make us the most money. And so the love is there 100%. And I think even with the pack structure, they thought of everything, like you said, the fact that like every base has a token on the back. So if you're playing draft or whatever, you have tokens to play with once you've already got the base you need. And I'm pretty sure they actually spread out the different aspects in the pack so that you actually get enough, from opening, is it 3 packs, I believe? You get enough to actually build a deck with. Yeah, so they really thought of everything and multi-format from day one, which most games don't. They usually come out the gate with one format in mind and they build more later. They're like, no. We're going to make sure you have everything you need for draft, for competitive one-on-one, for multiplayer, for Twin Sun. Like everything is right there on day one, and that is super special. Super special.
So I have 2 points I want to make. James, you kind of knocked out of the park with the starter decks with a full playset. So in Star Wars Unlimited, a playset is 3 of a single card.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, and I was going to talk about this on Twitter, and I might still do that. In older FFG days, if you all were around during the LCG lifespan, they used to have, for those who don't know, LCG is a living card game. So there was no rarity whatsoever. You would have a core set box when the game came out. And then every month, so it was supposed to be every month, but every month or so, there was a booster pack, air quotes, and it would be generally 15 to 20 cards. And it would be the same set of cards everywhere in the world. So if I bought a set and James bought a set, there would be no rarity difference whatsoever. So for Fantasy Flight Games to make money and sell cards, inside of the starter core boxes, there would always be 1 or 2 cards you had to have 3 copies of, and they would only put 1 in that box. So you were forced to purchase 3 of these boxes if you wanted to be a competitive player. And that was really annoying because we all knew, oh, hey, look, here's a new, Netrunner, the LCG would come out, and here's like this icebreaker or this event you had to have. 1 copy per box. All right, well, I guess I'm buying 3. Or the Warhammer LCG would come out, or, et cetera, et cetera. There were tons of LCGs. There was a Star Wars LCG. And the exact same thing would happen every time. There's always that 1 card you had to have, and you had to buy 3 of. And this is the first time I can recall in a long time where a starter set had a full play set in 1 purchasable box, which means you don't have to buy 3 of the starter set. Now you're sitting on 10 copies of a card you don't want. You just have to buy 1. And it's like, yes, thank God. Now I can spend all that extra money on booster packs, which is what I want to do anyways. But it was just kind of annoying that we all knew, oh, look, new game, we're going to have to buy 3 sets of the core box. Yeah, woo! All right, yeah, all right. So FFG has definitely pivoted away from that because it did feel like a money grab. It was kind of disappointing. But then the other thing I just wanted to bring up, and I know this might seem very small, but James can probably attest to this as a product designer. The fact that the booster packs are in paper wrappers, similar to Flesh and Blood, and the starter decks are in that parchment paper, just really shows the attention to detail because let's be honest, FFG did not have to do that. They could have easily put the booster packs in that classic foil wrapping like everybody else in the world, and they could have wrapped their starter decks in plastic like everybody else in the world, and we wouldn't have thought better or worse for it. We would have been like, okay, cool, this is the industry standard. That is what we expect because, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic, Lorcana, everybody does a foil wrapper. Minus Flesh and Blood, of course. And here comes Star Wars, and the first time I touched the pack, I was like, wait, this is paper. And I think I turned to James and Greg because you were behind me. I was like, guys, what the heck is this? And it's like, it just feels better. And yeah. I like paper boosters better than foil. But like Greg was saying, when it comes to doing draft, you can legitimately rip the top of the pack open and it doesn't hurt the cards because it's paper. Wow. I don't know why they made that decision, but I love the fact that they made that decision. Like, it just shows thoughtfulness. And of course, like, don't get me wrong, like, there's the environment and, recyclability and stuff like that. But it's just one of those really small details that stands out, I think, quite a bit to people who, like, once you touch that wrapper, it's going to go, it just tactile. It feels so different than that classic, crinkled foil wrapper that we're so used to.
Yeah, and that's not to even speak of like the rest of the products too. Like I'm not done gushing about this product lineup, especially from like a product design standpoint. Art sleeves that are actually that have shuffle feel, right?
They're good.
They're double matte. GameJetic did a really great job. Like I was like, when I saw their art sleeves, I'm like, oh man, I didn't bring my KMC matte and clear like oversleeves, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a tough weekend, right? And then I shuffled with them, just like, oh my gosh, these are awesome, right? So that's one thing. The deck pod, as they call it, I love that name. The deck pod.
So good.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a like a faux leather deck box that has a compartment that you can take off and then put on the bottom. It's magnetized, right? But there's also a spot for your leader. Right?
I heard that.
That's kind of you hear that. But there's also a spot for your leader, right? That's kind of like an Ultra Pro mini snap for those who have ever played like a leader based card game and put their leader in one of those. It slots right into the deck box, so like your leader can be like, I mean, they call it like the showcase, but it's like literally the showcase of your deck box if you have a showcase leader, which Sugu will be able to talk about showcases. Right? A compartment for all your tokens, which are like made to fit all of your GameJetic tokens, that come in a little plastic bag, right? That have all the little plastic tokens that you can put on your guys. The pins are really nice. I already put them on my geek bag, my Ultra Pro geek bag. It has all the aspects on them. They're great. And I mean, is there any other product I'm missing? But like, I mean, seriously, like this product lineup is crazy. The mats are awesome too. Yeah.
We got an exclusive event mat from the celebration. Then there's a 2-player mat that I'm definitely buying and like having at locals for people to play when we get there. I think one of my favorite things out of the product line that you mentioned was the tokens that they made. I think most games, what I always have to do is go on Etsy and go find a third-party person who's like making their own versions of real tokens. And this is just awesome to see that they actually thought about every single status condition, damage, and they made sure that there was one made for that. So you just buy this one time and you have all the tokens you need to be able to play the game and have a really immersive experience, not just like cheap little paper things on the board, but like everything feels tactile. Feels like you're playing like an actual tabletop game with all these pieces on.
Yeah, it was so funny because I remember James and we sat across from each other when we were opening up packs, right? And I was just like, I took the promo leader that we got that was like, extended art, right? And I kept on like turning it face up and like back rested again, right? And you're just getting a feel for it, right? I'm just like, man, it just feels good, right? The game flow is very good. It just feels great. The cards are great. They're it's actually interesting. The cards feel very similar to Lorcana cards. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
I did.
Yeah. I wonder if they're like using like similar printers. I don't know how industry printing works, but
card stock feels good.
Very similar. Yeah.
Isn't I think Star Wars Unlimited is coming from Cardamundi.
Oh, interesting.
I think Lorcana is also coming from there as well.
So that may explain the similarities. But yeah, they have the core, they have the this is my favorite part. I have a card, a Battlefield Marine common, right? But if you take the top side of it and the bottom side and you fold it in like a half pipe sort of thing, like you shout out Sonic 2 on the Genesis, right? And that sort of pipe, right? You can bend it back into shape. It's still there's no visible creases. It's still sleeve playable.
The magic
it's completely
test,
fine. Yeah, it passes the bend test. So
I have also good news. So it does pass the bend test, which for those of you who don't know, if you have a fake Magic the Gathering card or a fake Lorcana, fake Star Wars Unlimited card, if you bend it, like Greg was saying, into a half pipe and it creases, that is a fake card. If it doesn't crease, then it's a real card. But I also took a Vigilant Honor Guard. I had like 20 of these things and I ripped it in half. I'm sorry, don't hate me. But for those who don't know about counterfeit stuff, Pokemon has an interesting anti-counterfeit measure. It's not super useful if you rip a card in half, but there is a black ink line between the pieces of paper where it rips, and that shows that the card is genuine. So I wanted to test and see if Star Wars Unlimited had that same black line in between the paper rips, and it does. So clearly there are some anti-counterfeiting measures between the rare cards having that X-Wing stamp at the bottom, kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic, the holographic stamp. You also have the bend test, and then if you just really want to go ham, you can rip the card in half and see, oh, nope, there's no line. Clearly it was a fake, or yeah, there's the line. It was real.
Yo, should I do the bend test of my volcanic islands to check if they're legit right now?
No. Don't do that. There's
That's
other
a good
ways
one.
to check.
Yeah, don't worry. I've done the jeweler's loop.
Okay.
I know the strats. I know the strats.
So you're looking for the little red L on the green dot. Okay, yeah.
And the shape of an L on her green dot.
Speaking of product, I'd actually love to take it back to the Saturday when we actually got to sit down and walk into this event hall that we played at. And I think we all didn't know for sure what we were going to get. We probably were all expecting maybe starter decks, maybe some sleeves or something. They gave us a gift bag. And it was full of basically one of every product, I think, maybe missing a couple things. Yeah. And our minds were blown. We were sitting there being tortured like it was like the day before Christmas with gifts in front of us. Because they basically said, don't open anything yet.
Packs. I know they said don't open packs, but I'm just like, can I rip open the starter? Can I? Yeah, I didn't just to be safe. I'm like, I really want to open the starter.
I was like, I don't want to be the guy who like didn't follow the rules. So yeah, I was like, I'm not going to touch anything until they say,
I started ripping open that deck pod. So like the one thing I want to say about that deck pod, we have a review coming out. It might be out by the time this goes live, but that is probably one of my favorite deck boxes in the history of deck boxes ever made. One, it's cool as crap. Like that's the most family friendly word I could say. It is super cool. Two, that case that you can display your leader for is ingenious. However,
Perfect.
And I hope FFG doesn't send anybody after me. Sorry, Stormtroopers. For those of you who play Commander for Magic the Gathering, this is probably going to be one of the most popular deck boxes ever because not only can you use it for Star Wars Unlimited, but you can put your Commander on the front of that deck box. I have a ton of Commander decks, and now I can segment them by color and by Commander because Star Wars Unlimited is going to have red, blue, green, yellow, white, and black. Guess what colors are in Magic? All of those.
Can that deck fit 100 cards, though? That's the next test.
Yes, it can. I tested it. Also, there are going to be dual deck pods. So you could have 2 Star Wars Unlimited decks or 2 Commander decks. Like, the flexibility of these deck boxes is insane because like if you think about most companies, they want to make a deck box that can fit Lorcana, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Flesh and Blood, yada yada yada, and they do. They're just a very comfortable standard size box, but the fact that you can display what's in the box is great because half the time I am looking through my deck boxes going, okay, which Commander deck is this? I don't have labels or anything, I just have deck boxes. But the fact that I can now put my Commander on the front and I can organize by color, ooh, this is going to be so nice.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So like I'm probably going to buy like double of all the deck boxes because I'm going to have one set for Star Wars and one set for Magic. It's just so useful. I'm pretty confident they knew what they were doing because if you look at Star Wars Unlimited and the formats they have, there's a lot of mimicked thing from Magic the Gathering, and I think that's smart. But I just think it's cool that you've got standard, you've got limited, you've got sealed, you've got draft, you've got multiplayer singleton. It's like, wow, this is intense.
While we're on the topic of the deck pod, I love how we can just hear the compartments close. I think all of us are just looking at it.
Yeah,
like
we're all
that
just flipping it.
That one meme format. Yeah. Like I sent it to our Facebook chat, but like that picture of Wolverine like looking at a picture in bed, and it's like just him like it's him just like admiring the picture, whatever it is.
Yep.
That's us with the Star Wars deck pod right now.
It's so nice.
Man, it looks so good.
It feels really good. I don't know what it is. It just feel like the physical tactile feel because you said it's faux leather. It feels like kind of like a plastic rigid. I don't know. It just feels great. And you can hear the slap right now. Like,
it's iconic. The sound is iconic.
Yeah, it's great.
I love the little clear case that you can put your leader in. I'm admiring that right
now.
Oh, me too.
That's what I'm staring at. To Sugi's point about the references or like inspiration of Commander, I think it was so genius to build this game around a leader and a base. One of my favorite things about TCGs in general is deck building, and they kind of knocked that out of the park. I think a lot of games, it tends to just be sort of a good cards game. You kind of just throw together a bunch of good cards and now you have a deck. I think with Star Wars Unlimited and similar to Commander, you kind of just pick a character that you really love, that you're passionate about, that you're excited about. And there's so many ways to build around that because you can change the aspects that are paired with it, with the base. And so like you might just love Chewbacca, but nobody's Chewbacca deck is the same because somebody might play with aggression, somebody might play with double vigilance. It's just like so exciting.
The tagline of the game just makes so much sense. I think it's like unlimited possibilities or something like that. It's like, oh man, I love it because like Well, think about it. How much of the deck changes just if you choose a different color base, right? Like,
100%.
I've actually thought about like, oh, what kind of Chewbacca deck can I build? And I'm like a bit far away from building the green version of the deck, the blue-green version. But I realized that there's plenty of great cards in Cunning that are 3 costs or less that fit within this Chewbacca shell. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to build a Cunning Chewbacca deck, and I built it, or I'm building it, and it's like, wow, okay, this deck works too. I never thought that this would be a color pair for Chewbacca, but case in point, unlimited possibilities, right?
100%. I mean, it multiplies, right? I mean, there's so many leaders, so many bases, and then there's individual card choices inside of those combinations. It's like the same way that Commander feels great that everybody shows up with a different deck at the table and there's the excitement and surprise. I think Unlimited is going to have that same feeling of like, people are going to show up at locals with different decks, and you're not going to have just like, oh, everybody's playing the same one, because it's mostly based on what are you the most excited about trying in terms of the leader. And you're going to, like with the deck box, you're showcasing it on the front. There's so much pride and identity involved with that you might not get in other card games where it's just a bunch of cards in a deck face down.
And it's set 1. This is the first set, and we're just so excited and enamored with the opportunity. Like, this doesn't happen very often. It really doesn't.
You've all heard it before, like the set 1 card game Apologia, where people go like, oh, it's
just
growing pains. It's just set 1. It's a new game, right? Like, this is probably like, I mean, I don't want to speak too soon, but this might be like the absolute best the game will ever be. Like the set 1 right now, it's awesome. And not because it's like, oh, well, it's only going downhill from here, but kind of that, you know what I mean? Like, this is such a great launch. I think of this launch as some that are like a launch that other card game companies will look at and be like, oh my gosh, like let's try to see what they did here.
Yeah. And the fact that it's 3 sets a year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want.
Oh, the 3 sets a year? Yeah, I think that's great because it lets us actually enjoy the set 1 a little longer than most. You can actually enjoy it for 4 months. We're going to get to just play this format of the game and really enjoy it. And then when set 2 comes out, we can really shake it up. And there's only one more for the rest of the year. And I think, 3 is the perfect number. I think some games are moving up to like 5, 6, 7, 8 different sets in a year.
What?
It's hard to keep up, so we got to know there's only 3. I have to plan for 3 shakeups a year. That's refreshing for sure.
Yeah. And I think the other funny thing to think about is the formats that we played during the Star Wars Celebration event was Twin Suns, which is multiplayer, Sealed, which is you crack 6 packs and build a deck, and Draft, which is you draft 3 packs. We didn't play a single game of Constructed, or at least I didn't.
No.
And I at no point was like, you know what? I want to build a Constructed deck. I had so much fun jamming on Twin Suns, Draft, and Sealed. It was like heaven on earth. So like getting to play Constructed is going to be really fun. But the fact that the other formats feel just as good, if not better, like I am just so hyped on Twin Suns. I am not going to lie. I could play Twin Suns and completely forget every other format and be totally happy because the tricolor permutations are kind of nuts. And then once you go to like double aspect plus a color, there's so many things you can do. It's crazy.
Literally insane. And it's cool to see that they even like, there's so many layers to game design that you have to think about in that, as soon as you crack open the possibilities of 2 leaders, but the fact that like there's synergies there, even within those pairings of just like Leia, synergizing with Rebel, Sabine's also a Rebel. So pairing those together, there's like synergy automatically with those 2 leaders. But it's like crazy to think that there's so many gymnastics they have to jump through to 1, design them as individual leaders, and 2, design leaders that pair together. Naturally.
Yeah.
I mean,
I for one welcome our Thrasios Timna Commander Twin Sun Overlords.
I don't know if you guys talked to the designers or the devs about this, but I was asking if there was going to be Twin Suns specific cards in future sets, kind of like Magic has Commander specific cards, and they said they're taking Twin Suns into account in future sets. I believe as early as set 2, possibly. I didn't get like a confirmation directly, but it was like set 1 is basically like the most base fundamental set. So it's just kind of across the board. So there weren't cards specifically designed for Twin Suns, but they all work in Twin Suns. But once we see future sets, like we'll see a card that very clearly is like, this is a Twin Suns card. Like this is a multiplayer specifically designed card. And like, Possibly, yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of exciting to know that future sets will have specific designs for Twin Suns, which means they're not going to just make this format and like leave it in the dust and be like, oh, hey, we announced it. You do whatever you want. Like they are actively designing cards around that format.
Which is fun because like even as like a bare minimum, if that's what they did, I'd still be cool with it because we'd make it a fun format anyway. But just having that official support, it can never hurt. It goes a very long way and is much appreciated.
So yeah, like the thing that's interesting about the Twin Suns format is there's the standard format where you have like one copy of each card, 2 leaders, 1 base. But we were actually sitting next to Ryan Serrano during the pack opening process for Sealed, and he had mentioned that he had a pauper version of Twin Suns. I actually think he played that deck during the live stream FFG did like 3 or 4 days ago. And so for those who don't know, a pauper deck is commons and uncommons only. No rares, no legendaries, nothing higher than that. And so the fact that there's already a format where there's like constructed pauper, it's like, oh my gosh, this is way too cool. Because I loved pauper magic because you could build a deck for like $10. Commons and uncommons don't cost anything. So being able to play a Twin Suns deck for pennies on the dollar sounds like fun, and without the power level of the rare and legendary cards, you have to look at your uncommons and commons and go, how do I find synergy within these colors and make a potent deck with the resources available? And so I like that stretched challenge of you don't have access to Vader, you don't have access to Luke, you don't have access to Yoda or Obi-Wan. Like you have to use these very low to the ground cards, and like, cool, that's fine. I'll do it. I want to make that happen. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of TCG Cast. We appreciate each and every one of our listeners for joining us on this week's episode. If you'd like to help the show out, definitely make sure to follow us on our social media accounts such as Twitter and Facebook at TCG Cast. Also, you can help support the show by picking up your trading card game accessories and singles at our sponsor, alchemistrefuge.shop. This is one of our favorite places to pick up cards for Lorcana, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and soon, Star Wars Unlimited. All the information and more will be in the show notes. So thanks again for joining us, and let's get back into this episode.
By the way, I'm curious how you all are coping now with the fact that we all had products so early. The fact that we left that event.
not well, champ.
Yeah, we were at that event where we're surrounded by other people geeking out about the game with us, and then you come back home to your hometowns, and it's like nobody else can play this game.
There's only so many times I can goldfish my Palpatine deck before I actually want to play it.
Yeah, there have been some days where I feel very alone, and I'm like, oh, I can't do anything with these cards.
I'm just shuffling through my cards like, oh man, I can't wait to play this with a real person.
Although I've seen some people at locals play the starter decks. Do you know if those
they gave them out early. Yeah,
demos
to stores early.
Stores have demo decks that they can use so people can like try the game out.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest, Twin Suns is the way to go, man.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Like, so basically Friday locals is my Lorcana locals, but I'm not gonna lie, I hijacked it a little bit. I went Friday. I'm like, I'm not playing Lorcana, y'all. I'm playing Star Wars. Anybody want to join in? Feel free to sit in front of me. Had a couple people try the game. And the store owners or the store managers were like, how do you have all of this stuff? And I'm like, it's top secret.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. And so, yeah, I mostly just played Luke versus Vader starter decks with everybody to teach them the game. And I'll tell you, even though the starter decks are fun, they're a great way to play the game and learn how to play it. It is not the same as how we played this weekend with Draft, Sealed, and Twin Suns. Like, it's just a way more fun experience with your own cards and different variations on what you're playing. The starter decks definitely are slower for sure than like playing with a real deck for the most part, but still good. And I plan to basically hijack locals as much as possible until the game actually comes out. That's my plan.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, no, it's funny because I actually pulled out the playmat and people were just like, "How do you get that?" And you feel like the hottest. When you're just like,
language.
Oh, you're right. You feel like the
hottest potato in the world.
You feel like
I'll bleep it. Don't worry about it. I got you.
You feel like the guy. You feel like the man. And you're just like, no big, you try to be humble about it. You're like, you just flew out of Minnesota. No big deal,
humble. Yeah, right. Okay.
It's just kind of a thing.
I meant tattooing. I went to the Tashi station for some power converters. No big deal.
Exactly. That should be what I say from now on.
I felt kind of bad because when I came and brought in all my product that I had, like the store manager was like, "Oh, I got the Star Wars starter decks." I'm like, "Man, we got all these cards. We're good." We're just playing.
Oh, that's too funny.
I'm actually surprised, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Most TCGs, I'm surprised with it being coming out so soon. There's not actually singles for sale yet. Is that normal?
Yes. So the street date for the game is officially pre-release is March 1st. And then the actual release is March 8th.
Got it.
So technically stores can't break street date until generally it's the release date of the 8th, but some people will put up pre-orders on the 1st. But like industry standard is usually the official release date is when you can buy singles.
Sweet. So, not that I would know what to buy anyways. I'm so disconnected from the meta. But I was curious. eBay
has people who have done like pre-release sales. So they clearly say, we don't have this in hand, but we will. But that's like eBay is literally the wild, wild west. I don't trust it at all.
It's also tough because it's like, how do you project the pull rates of a game that it doesn't have a sample size for pull rates yet? You know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's tough. It's tough to really know. If
the only real cards in the wild would be from our event. So if you see any of those and someone's like card in hand, that's going to be someone from the event. However, I didn't get the feeling like people from the event were going to sell the cards because it felt so precious and organic to be in this little. It's kind of like this trading card game vacuum because people were trading cards not based on a market that doesn't exist. It was so just refreshing. Kind of like it was just like I've got a rare. It's like the playground trading. Yeah, it was like well, you were asking earlier, James, about that. So Greg and I did a trade where what did I trade you? I traded you a hyperspace Gen Leader, Admiral Akbar, 2 hyperspace commons or uncommons.
Looks like the Wing Leader was in there.
A wing, you had a Wing Leader and. What else? Something else.
I forget what else. All I know is that you ended up with Vigilance, the command, and it's just like, okay, well, you give me a couple rares, some uncommons, and showcase I want, or not showcase, but like hyperspace I want.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, this seems very fair, but it's also like, oh, I mean, if this Vigilance card is like $20 legendary, we'll figure it out later. But it was like, it was just trying to get cards into each other's hands, and I actually had that as well. Shout out to Max Sapera. He just wanted to build Vader, right? And he's like, this Luke deck I don't want to build any hero stuff. Just let me know the Vader cards you have. I'm just like, that's sweet. It's cool that you say that because I want to build Chewie and Luke. These both need a playset of R2D2 C3PO. And he's like, yeah, take them. I don't, I'm not building those decks. I'm like, it's awesome because I want to build both. And I hate switching cards back and forth between decks. It's a very arduous process, like removing things from sleeves, putting them back in sleeves, right? And so, like, I ended that weekend with just like 2 playsets of C3PO R2D2 and cards that I view to be very playable in heroism, right? And it's like, it's just that kind of trading I miss a lot because it's not like the super value focus where it's like, all right, let's pull up TCG player. Oh man, you're missing 50 cents. I can't make this deal unless you throw me a couple quarters. Like it's like that super like sweaty. Like we think that we're like people like watch one episode of Suits and think and think that they're making like this big law firm deal or whatever. It's like no, it's cool. It's trading cards and we are trading cards for our decks, right? That's what we need. We need playables.
Exactly.
It just felt so good to not have to worry about getting sharked. I mean, obviously with legendaries, you have to kind of guess what they could go for, but like I gave you 3 rare cards, 2 hyperspace, 1 hyperspace leader, and then like 4 or 5 commons and uncommons. Like I think that's pretty fair for
a fair trade
for a legendary. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, it was so refreshing. I ended up trading Hera for, and I know Hera's a rare technically, but I wasn't planning on playing Hera at all. And I was like, I did not pull Boba, and I know he's common. And I was like, okay, I'll trade you Hera for Boba and a bunch of other stuff to balance it out. And it was like, great. I mean, I got to walk away with a leader I actually wanted to play, and they got what they wanted. And it's like, you don't get to do that anymore. Like you all said, it's just so refreshing to be able to like not have to pull up an app and compare prices. It's just like, you want to play this, I want to play that. Let's switch. So refreshing. And I hope some of that's retained, but I know that's eventually going to fade away once there's a market and there's a meta. But we can enjoy it while we can.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I can't say enough high praise to Fantasy Flight Games for hosting a great event, providing an amazing amount of product that we didn't ask for, we didn't expect. We were just there to have fun, and that goodie bag was full of all kinds of stuff, and it's like, wow. I like FFG is also really putting their best foot forward to promote like the community, because we were able to like uninhibitedly talk to anyone we wanted. Like Jim was there. We got to talk about that tattoo on his arm. That was really cool. Jeremy Zorin was there. Like every single designer, every single developer was there, and they weren't like, hey, I've got 5 minutes to talk to you and then 5 minutes to talk to you. They're just walking around hanging out, and you could just walk up and be like, hi, I'm such and such. They're like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And they would talk about Star Wars or video games or board games or Star Wars Unlimited. Like it just felt like gamers hanging out with gamers. It wasn't like this political event. It wasn't like company versus content creators. It was just a bunch of people in a room who love Star Wars and trading card games getting to just enjoy this fun moment. And you don't see that very often, especially from major corporations. So like, I think Fantasy Flight deserves to be commended because they put their best foot forward and they really humanized the team where everyone was on the same foot. And that's really refreshing, because a lot of times you go to an event, it's like, hey, I'm the designer. Who are you? No, they didn't have that attitude. They're like, oh, hey, I just play games. Like, aren't you a designer?
In fact, for a lot of, because I didn't know the entire team, a lot of it was just like, wait, you're with FFG? That's awesome. You know what I mean? It's like they're kind of, they were playing a game of Among Us and they were the imposters. They were just gamers just like us playing the game. And it's like awesome. He's like, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you. I'm a junior game dev at FFG. I'm just like, oh, wait, really? That's awesome. And so even cool. Like, taking a step away from Lorcana, even just from a more personal perspective, this event is just like so many memories, like the ticket drinks for Greg, and then being able to have the dinner with all the misfits.
You gotta tell the story about the deck box. Yeah, the dinner with the tabletop misfits guys, love that. Those guys
right.
Awesome. Go check them out.
Our double Panera meal that we had, breakfast at Panera, and then we got catered lunch Panera. Kaijudo deck box. If anyone meets us at a convention, let us know. We can tell you that story. It's we became pretty well known during the event, James and I, for perhaps the reason you wouldn't want to be known at one of these events. Not anything that we did, but it's okay. We were known as the Legends. And shout out to Jay from Unplayable. We were both on the same floor. I was heading back to my hotel room that one night. He just I hear from the end of the hallway, he just goes like, old Greg. The sense of community and camaraderie just from that event alone is awesome. Like no one really felt to be really in it for themselves. No one was like, doing the super schmooze or whatever, trying to get all this info from the devs. No. It was really just people that felt really blessed and honored to be at this event, to be able to enjoy Star Wars Unlimited, and just like really, props to FFG for putting this together. And also, I got to meet you guys in person for the first time. Which
if anything, that's the biggest highlight.
Is worth the trip. If we got one pack of Star Wars and they're just like, all right, play a 12-card game of Star Wars, I would have still been fine with that event. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. Sure. One other thing I'd love to touch on is I think Sugi had a little bit of experience with the game, but Greg and I were relatively new going into that weekend, and so we were really experiencing everything pretty fresh. I'm curious, Greg, what was the sort of a takeaway from the game itself? The gameplay, the cards, that you're kind of taking into it as you embark on your journey into Star Wars Unlimited moving forward.
Yeah, I think the system is really great. I was able to play, I think I played around 20, 25 games very early on with Sugi. And that's probably before even half the set was revealed. Like we were playing like off of 70, 80 cards revealed. And I was able to learn the game, kind of learn the ropes. But after that, I was more focused on either my job or Lorcana or whatever other card game, probably Duel Masters mobile that I was playing a bunch of, right? So I didn't have too much more time for Star Wars. But really, honestly, I think that just makes the memory of the event so much more great, right? Because like there were cards being spoiled. People are like, oh, was this card spoiled before? It's just like, I don't know, they're all new to me. I don't know when this was spoiled or like how it came about. But really just having that fresh experience of seeing all these cards for the first time. And it kind of brings back that like early MTG feel. And I don't know, I was born with a computer in my hand, basically, where like I had easy access to the internet because I'm only 23. But I mean, the big thing is that Yeah, it's like you kind of felt the pre-spoiler days where it's like apparently there was this mythical time in Magic where you'd open up a pack for the first time and you'd see cards that you haven't seen before through any official means. And you're like, wow, what does this thing do? What can I build with this? And like even going to the event, even people that were 100% up to date, there were still I think around 15, 20 cards if that figures right. That we didn't know, and like we were revealing some on the spot. I know the Tabletop Misfits were looking at cards. Like we were really just kind of scrambling. I think as a community we kind of pulled together where it's like we need to make sure that we reveal these cards before FFG finally says fine, we'll drop the full set list. You know what I mean? And so just that few hours of magic where people are trying to not match the game, but the magical feeling, right? The whimsy magical feeling of just being like, let's all get together, let's try to figure out what cards haven't been spoiled yet. I mean, it was just awesome. And yeah, I mean, that's my very long-winded answer to your question, James. So I'm curious to see what you would think if I asked that same question back at you.
Yeah, for me, it was really interesting because I had even less experience going into that weekend because I basically played against an AI online like maybe 20 times just to try it, maybe the first few months when it first got revealed. And then going into this weekend, I really fell in love with the game mechanics. I think most of the time when you go into designing a new card game or anything in general, you're looking at existing things that work and saying, what can we change to make the system feel fresh? And I think the most exciting thing for me is, being able to take actions back and forth within a turn. I think that's what's really selling me on it. Obviously, Star Wars characters and everything else, super exciting. But in terms of playing the game, that aspect feels really refreshing and new, and it makes it feel like I'm not playing solitaire back and forth. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to be like, I make all my actions and then they make all their actions and then I make my actions. There's something so strategic and complex about saying, I do one action, now you do yours. And if they do something you weren't planning, you have to sort of change your plan out for the rest of the round. And I think that's incredibly refreshing, and it's going to make this game have a lot more longevity. Every game's going to feel different because of that.
It was so surprising to me when I learned that it's just like sometimes the initiative is just worse. People keep on like hyping up the initiative. It's just like, oh, I'll take the initiative. I need to take the play the next round, right? But if you have a removal spell, you actually want them to take the play first, make them waste their action, play your vanquish or takedown, and it's like, haha, you did nothing. It's just it's so interesting. So have you noticed that quite a bit in your testing, where it's just like, yeah, I mean, sometimes initiative is what seems to be the obvious play, but like, no, I want to see what they have on the table first before I commit to anything.
Yeah, as a control player, I don't very frequently take the initiative because it's like you said, I want my opponent to overextend or give me more targets for removal. Mm-hmm. So I'm never there's a couple games where like if I take the initiative, I win. So obviously you do, but like 9 times out of 10, the decks I play have a lot of actions, a lot of low cost cards, a lot of ways to kind of stall the game out. So my opponent has to do all their stuff, and then I could just kind of go crazy knowing that they're not going to interact with me whatsoever. But that is very much a control player aspect. If you're playing mid-range or aggro, generally you want to go first because you want to just have that constant pressure. So it does depend on what you're doing. But for me personally, I'm not terribly invested in the initiative token. I don't need it very frequently.
Yeah, Kasugi wants to take down my Sabine every time I play it.
I did that. I did do that. Yeah, it felt really good. Well, actually, so funny enough, in that game we played, I knew you were. So Sabine comes out on what, turn 4, I think?
Yep, 4.
Yeah. So when we were playing, you went first and you didn't deploy her. You attacked. So I was like, I'll attack. And then you attacked again. I think you had like 2 or 3 bodies on the board and I had like 1 or 2. So I'm just like, I'm just going to keep attacking and wait. And then you played something. I'm like, oh, this is bad. So I'm like trying to stall without blowing my my resources. Yep. So I'm like slowly trying to like pace out the game. And then you're like, Sabine action. Everyone takes 1 damage. I'm like, I am running out of options here. If you don't play the Sabine, I'm going to be forced to take the initiative. I think I actually passed. You forced me to take the soft pass. And I was like, please, God, do not let James realize what I'm doing. Because if you passed, then the turn would have reset. And you would have gotten all that value and I would have gotten nothing. But you conveniently played the Sabine, to which I responded with a takedown, and that worked out great. But yeah, if you see a control player pass, just think for a split second your next action, because they're probably waiting for you to play something. And if you pass after the other person passes, then the turn is over. You draw cards, you resource cards, and you go to the next round. And like you would have gotten so much value, and I would have gotten nothing.
And it's those little micro decisions that make it so exciting, right? Like it just means that like real competitive events are going to play out so well. Like that's going to be the coolest thing to watch on stream. If you're watching a competitive event, it's going to be that chess game of like he's stalling out to make sure that, you know, he runs out of actions and has to pass before he makes their move. Like, I mean, that's incredibly exciting. And a lot of times card games are a lot more straightforward. It's like I do something, pass, then they have to do something. There's just something really complex for the people who really crave that strategic gameplay to say, not only are my cards in my deck important and playing them is important, it's even just the order, the sequencing, the, you know, bluffing to say like, oh, I'm going to take initiative now instead of doing something else. There's so much layers there. I think it's an art, honestly. I think even taking the initiative counter is an art in itself. And so there's going to be a lot of depth for people who are interested in that side of the game. Super easy to get into. So many layers if you want to get deeper.
So many layers like an ogre. I'm Shrek.
Like an onion?
That's how you know it's late for us. I'm starting to make the Shrek references.
Oh my!
I already did All-Star earlier in the episode. We've gone full circle.
That's true. We've gone full circle. I want to say one of my big takeaways from the Star Wars community event was hanging out with Jim Cartwright. Like I love this guy. He is an absolutely fantastic human being. But one of the coolest things is he's got all the aspects tattooed on his arm. And like, you cannot tell me this man does not absolutely love and believe in this game to put that level of dedication. And it's not like upper arm. It is like, what's that front part?
Front and center.
Yeah. Like you.
It's on his femur, I think.
Femur. Yeah. Femur. That's a good way to put it. Like if you sit down across from this individual, it's going to be like right in your face. And all you got to do is ask, what are those? He's like, let me tell you. And like, there's just so much passion and joy and excitement. And that was just everywhere we went with every person we talked to, be it content creator, FFG employee, designers, developers, marketing team. Everyone was just so filled with this excitement that their baby has come to life. And we get to finally like play with these cards in real life. But those tattoos are really, really cool. If I wasn't afraid of needles, I might consider doing one of them. I would do Vigilance. That's my color. But
I was gonna ask, yeah.
it would be Vigilance, but man, I'm just, me and needles, not friends.
I'm right there with you. My wife is tatted up, and I'm like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, like
Hey,
I'll take a shot at the doctor's office. That's it.
Yes,
That's my limit.
yes. Greg, if you had to put a tattoo on you of an aspect, which one would it be?
Oh, of an aspect. Oh, that's interesting. Oh man, I'm not sure if I'm really like too dedicated to any one of them.
Cop out.
You gotta pick one now.
Cunning.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that's also mine. So I'm right. All right. Cunning would be my number one choice, but since you took it, I'll go aggression. That's my second.
No, cunning's cool. You can both be cunning buddies.
Yes, we could be cunning.
Also,
buddies.
from a graphic design standpoint, I think cunning has the coolest design, personally.
Anyways, moving on.
Thanks for watching this episode of TCG Cast.
Oh
man, Greg, I know you had some stuff you want to say about Mr. Jeremy Zwern, aka JZ, from the Fantasy Flight team. But you got to talk to him. You got to play some games. Like, how did that go?
Yeah, so Jeremy Zwern has been on this podcast before when we had Xander and him on to kind of talk about the game. We had a lot of great questions. Still probably worth checking out and listening to nowadays if you wanted to. We have it. I think it's episode 101 of TCG Cast. So
dun, dun, dun.
The inaugural episode, right? But yeah, I mean, so he was just like, yeah, Greg's got a bunch of questions for you. And at the time, I'm just like, do I? But yeah, we had a great conversation. We found a spot that's a bit quieter, because there's music and people are having the hors d'oeuvres or horse d'oeuvres as I call them, and having a great time.
Wow.
It was pretty loud in there. But yeah, we had a great conversation, and like, man, when he says he's a senior game designer, been working for, I think it was like 8+ years in the industry, some figure like that. I mean, he really does mean it. I was able to, like, he's able to reference different types of games and LCGs and trade card games with ease, being able to kind of synthesize them, link them all together, find the commonalities between all of them, and just, really, I felt like I learned a lot from him. I had a lot of questions kind of about Star Wars Unlimited, different games. He knew about Duel Masters immediately out of the gate because I referenced it as my favorite trading card game. He's like, yeah, the
Nice.
Shield, like he was able to kind of talk about what that game did very well. And of course, we see a parallel in a lot of trading card games nowadays with like the card as resource thing. And that's what Star Wars Unlimited chooses to implement. And really the biggest difference, and I actually brought this up on the podcast in 101 as well, which is like you start with 2. And I think Jeremy's really big on just being able to have a thing that you can do on turn 2 and being able to draw 2 as well amongst that, where it's like a lot of times, in Duel Masters, even though I love it so much, I'm willing to recognize its flaws. A lot of times, because you only start with 5 cards, you get 1 card a turn, you have to really play mana if you want to get your engine going. A lot of times you're just going to be placing something down, and you're going to say pass, and then you're going to place something down.
Yep.
And then your opponent's going to play something down and you'll pass, right? And so a lot of times in that game, you'd have to play cards that draw you just to supplement the fact that if you play a card and put a resource down every single turn, you're eventually just going to run out of cards. And Jeremy's just like, yeah, I wonder why more developers and designers don't do this draw 2 system, because you still get your card for turn, but you also get an easy way to determine what your resource is going to be, how to set yourself up for success. I sound like a college guidance counselor right now. Setting yourself up for success later in the game, right? We don't want to get into some bad habits now, right? But like, yeah, just being able to have that draw 2 there where you don't feel completely starved for cards, especially if you aren't playing cards that draw to supplement. It doesn't feel like playing extra cards that draw is a necessity in Star Wars Unlimited. In fact, sometimes I feel like my Palpatine deck draws too much. It's like I have 9 cards in hand. What am I supposed? I can't play all these, right? And so really just I think I'll keep it pretty short and sweet. I think we had at least a 30-minute conversation, and of course, Jeremy's Wern, a great resource, definitely great to talk to, and knows his stuff, and is a very, very senior game designer that just knows how to reference deeply and also reference widely across the industry as a whole. So it's clear the passion's there, and I'm glad that he's on board for this project, and he designed 7 cost Darth Vader in the villainy and green. So that's a very good card. It's probably one of my favorite cards in the set. Yeah, I wish I asked him to sign that card for me. Oh boy, missed opportunities. I pulled one. Whoops.
Oh, that's right, you did. I'm so jealous.
I'm sure there'll be more chances.
There'll be more chances. Don't worry.
All of that is PAX Unplugged.
All of that is amazing, and I'm glad you got to have that conversation. I think as a designer on my end, hearing the ins and outs of how people come to decisions they make, and they're really historians of the field they're in. So the fact that they're building a card game and they actually took the time to study all these, the history of card games that came before, what's wrong with them, what doesn't work, what does. And that whole two draw at the end of a phase is genius. I think the least fun thing in a card game is not having cards to play, but it happens all the time, right?
It happens all
it sucks.
the time.
And I quickly noticed how aggro really benefits from that in this game. Like every deck benefits from it, but aggro in particular really gets to enjoy that extra draw because you resource the 4 or 5, and then after that you're just drawing 2 cards and playing those 2 cards. And so I'm curious to see how that'll balance out over time of aggro having that little advantage from the 2 draw system. But I'm pretty sure they thought it all through. I'm excited to see it.
Okay, so as we wrap up this episode, obviously there are so many talking points. There's so many highs, and unfortunately we just cannot cover all of them. But as a trading card game, we are going to be pulling a lot of cards. And let's wrap up this episode talking about our favorite pull from this event. What was your favorite card you got out of the packs you pulled or the cards you drafted during this event? We'll start with James. What was your number 1 card?
Ooh, this is a tough one because it depends on what we're talking about. So I might have to give a couple answers. Sorry.
Okay.
So if we're talking about aesthetically, the prized possession that just looked the best for me, it was a hyperspace foil Jabba the Hutt. It is just so beautiful, and it's a well-known character that people are a fan of. And so in terms of the look of a card, that one wins it for me. In terms of 2 cards that I really enjoy that I pulled was Millennium Falcon. I pulled that in my first pack during the sealed event, and this was in every cunning deck I could play that day. Such a cool card. And I'll mention 2 more and I'll wrap it up. Admiral Akbar is one of the only cards that I got a foil of that makes me want to play Command. I really had no interest in Command. Sorry, guys. But Admiral Akbar, it's a trap. Like this card is so beautiful. The green shines so well on the foiling. And then lastly, I'll mention Mace Windu was my legendary foil that I pulled. And just staring at this card, I don't care if it's not a meta card or if it's a card people are going to play competitively. But my goal is definitely to get Samuel L. Jackson to sign this because he's on a trading card, and I love it. So those are mine.
Yeah, I talked about mine very briefly, and really it's just it encompasses a lot of what I really love about trading card game design. This is something I'll probably have Sugi put on the docket for a future podcast, but I really love studying the difference between Western versus Eastern card game design. So like the differences between card games or card designs that we see from games in the East, which is like Japan and other Southeast Asian regions, and card games from America, right? And so really the 7-cost command villainy Darth Vader, designed by Jeremy Zwirn himself, 5/7 ambush. When played, you kind of roll a roulette wheel. One of the big things about Japanese trading card design that I really love is that there's this really like RNG or like exciting moment where you're just like, oh no, how is this game going to turn into my favor? And like everything can really seem like you're really out of the game. But this card is really cool because it says you get to search the top 10 cards of your deck for any number of villainy units with a combined cost of 3 or less and play them for free. So what that means is that you can play a 3-cost, a 2-cost, and a 1-cost, or if you get really lucky, 3 1-costs. And so really it's just to kind of symbolize Darth Vader and his, the First Legion and all the troopers behind him and all that stuff, just like Darth Vader and his army, really. But really, I just kind of love when card games and like the system itself doesn't need to have that extra added layer of RNG, but like when cards do it, it's like, oh man, this is a very like Eastern, I guess, inspired design where it's like, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to get. Look at the top 3, play whatever. I just love those very exciting like roller coaster type moments in card games because at the end of the day, we aren't playing chess. If we wanted a 100% skill based experience, let's just play chess, right? We're playing a card game. We're playing a card game, and variance is a, love it or hate it, is a very quintessential element of those card games. And like when cards or designers just kind of go all the way with it and just like, you know what, let's just embrace the framework or the fabric of the game that we're trying to create or the kind of game that we're designing for. I really love it. And I can't wait to play this Darth Vader card in many of my games in Star Wars Unlimited and just be like, all right, boys, take a look at those top 10, start praying, see what's in those top 10. And that is my favorite card by far.
Nice. Okay. Don't let Greg go to Las Vegas, guys. Watch out.
Let me go to Japan, though. There you go. Let me go to Japan. Play more card games. There you go.
Wow. Well, my favorite card is probably not surprising to anyone if you've been watching or listening to our Twitter feed over the last week, but I actually was able to pull the very first showcase in the world outside of the Fantasy Flight staff, and it was the Director Krennic. So it's in my favorite color. I was already working on a Krennic control deck, so seeing that was like, well, I think I know what I'm playing this weekend. But the showcase cards are absolutely gorgeous. These are they are a rainbow foil, but there's something different about the foiling. I don't know what they did, but it's absolutely incredible. Also, the artwork feels kind of like a spot gloss. So the background art and the foil are basically like one layer, and then the artwork of Krennic or whoever's on there. So someone else pulled Palpatine at the community event. So the primary character is basically the frontmost layer, and it's kind of a shiny, glossy version of that artwork. So it really does truly stand out as a showcase compared to everything else that's much more two-dimensional. So if you ever happen to get your hands on one, like, these are awesome. So that was one of my favorite pulls. I want to tell the story about this too. This is nuts. So we get our booster boxes, and they told us don't open anything, but you can get 6 packs out of your box and prepare to build a sealed deck. So while everyone's getting into the room and all the content creators are getting seated, the live stream team was prepping. So you've got camera ops and talent and stage floor managers that are counting people down. So we're just kind of waiting, and I noticed that the artwork on the booster packs have Leia, Chewie, Thrawn, and somebody else. I don't even know who it was. And I really wanted to play Thrawn that weekend, like super, super bad. Ironically, I didn't pull a Thrawn. I had to trade for him. But I pulled out, so there's 24 packs in the box. There's 4 different pieces of artwork. So there were 8 different packs that had a picture of Thrawn. So most people just grab 6 packs from the top of their box, either top 6 on the left, top 6 on the right, or 3 and 3. I actually went through the box and physically pulled out all of the Thrawn booster packs. Then I picked 6 of those 8 booster packs for my sealed. Then on top of that, the person across from me, I asked, I was like, which of these booster packs should I open first? And they're like, that one. They pick one of those packs. And so we get the clearance, open your packs, go and start building decks. And no joke, my first pack, first pull, first card I ever saw in my entire life was that Showcase Thrawn. And the mathematical odds of that happening are so stupid low. It's ridiculous. I don't even want to think about the odds. But yeah, there it was. There, so people are already asking me, like, are you going to sell it? No. Where do you go from there? I don't know. Like, when your first card ever, yeah, it's like your first card ever is a showcase. What can beat that? I don't know. A second showcase? Like, I really have no idea where to go from there.
No, that was poetic. Honestly, it was beautiful to see. I would dare say our fearless leader of TCG Cast basically get that moment immediately as we all start cracking open packs. I mean, it was magical. You can't write this stuff. It was incredible.
No. Well, it's so funny because everyone had like lapel mics on, and like you could still hear it on the stream.
Oh yeah, you could hear me screaming. I was like, credit.
Yeah, it's also really funny. I watched back that live stream, and I didn't even know that you got some airtime, Sugi. You were the I guess the crown jewel of like being the showcase puller as well, being able to talk to FOG in that way. But like, yeah, you got some airtime pretty early on with that epic pull,
So they'd picked people to be on the stream to play, and they'd picked people to be on the stream to do interviews. So they'd actually chosen me to be on the interview side way before I pulled or opened any packs.
That's funny stuff.
Yeah, it's like it really is a Cinderella story, because they were like, yeah, we didn't schedule this. We actually talked to Sugi like way before about this, and I'm like,
it would be funny if you were set up though. Yeah.
Well, there's no way.
It's just impossible.
You sorted your packs. Yeah.
Just to add to the layer of insanity of making the first pack first pull. When they opened the doors to enter the facility, they had us line up, and then we checked in, and then they gave us our goodie bag. So I was the second person in line. So like if anything had changed and someone else had been second person in line, they would have gotten it. But on top of that, like, we don't know where that pack came from in the box. It could have been at the top. It could have been at the bottom. So like, if it had been anyone else, they may or may not have even pulled that showcase in their first 6 packs. Right. So like, there's just so much math. It's just nuts. So it's a really fun story to tell, but I'm still just blown away. Like, first pack, first pick, first card, showcase Krennic. Wow.
So you're forcing Krennic in this set, right? You got to play him now, right?
I'm pretty much locked into Krennic decks. I mean, I was going to do Krennic control and Thrawn control. So wow, so unique and so scary. But yeah, I'm actually sending that Krennic off to PSA. He's already been sent off to get graded. So
that's awesome.
I'm going to use my other showcase Krennic, or my hyperspace Krennic instead.
I'm hoping you get your 10 despite dropping on the floor.
Yeah, my hands.
We don't talk
shaking.
about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno. No. Yeah, my hands were literally shaking. Someone was like, "Show me the card." I like turned around and it just fell out of my hands. I was like, well, PSA 9, there we go.
Well, the goodness, I think it actually fell on one of the bags that we got, so it wasn't on like the floor.
I don't know.
Either way, the card still looks fine. I took a look at it. It's probably 9 or 10 material. So
yeah, I highly doubt it took any damage. But yeah, like, this card was touched by people. It fell on the floor. It's been a wild ride.
Immediately, you're like, Greg, you have perfect fits. I need one.
Yeah. I turned around. I was like, Greg, you got perfect fits. Could I please have one? He's like, I got you.
I'm like, imagine if I come unprepared to any situation ever. I'm just like Thrawn. He's just like me, for real.
Yeah, Greg is like for real life Thrawn. But yeah, if you go and watch the live stream, about I think an hour and 20, when the team sits down to like start talking about their Twin Suns deck with the overhead cam, you can hear me screaming like, credit. People are like clapping, and like, yeah, I was just like, I stood up, started screaming. It's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh my gosh. Like, you found the golden ticket. Woo!
Golden ticket.
But since we're all getting cases, now we have to have like the case challenge to see if any one of us gets a showcase out of that.
So it would be hilarious if you get another Krennic.
I would have to trade for that. Yeah, like please no, give me that Thrawn. That new Thrawn looks great.
I think it's likely. If my luck from Lorcana passes over to Star Wars Unlimited, I haven't pulled a single. What do you call them?
Enchanted.
Enchanted. I haven't pulled a single Enchanted, and I don't know how many boxes I've opened. So clearly, I'm not set up for a showcase. But
how many boxes have you opened though?
I had to have been like 8, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I haven't pulled a single one. You
should have seen one by now. Well, maybe your luck is in Star Wars.
Could be. Maybe that's where I was supposed to be this entire time. Was in Star Wars.
Here's the other thing. Someone did the math, and I think they said if you pull a legendary hyperspace foil card, that's like 1 in 200 packs. So that's almost as rare as the 288 packs for a showcase. So don't fret. If you don't get a showcase, but you hit a hyperfoil legendary, that is still pretty darn impressive.
I'm definitely playing my leaders in hyperspace at the very, very least. I think they're too nice in hyperspace to not.
Are you going to bling out your base and your leader combo?
I think most of them, I think my deck is going to be normal just because it's probably the most sustainable thing to do. But my leaders, the ones I plan to play, I think I'm going to try to bling them out. Maybe not showcase bling, but as far as I can go before showcase.
Here's another question before we go, because I just can't stop talking. You know those C3P OP kits that have the 3-card packs?
Oh yeah, yep.
You know how they say that they have cards that have different hyperspace and foiling that aren't in the standard set?
Oh, are you thinking they're going to be hyperspace foil leaders?
Do you think there's going to be hyperfoil leaders or bases in there?
I would hope. I mean, I feel like this they got to now, right?
I don't know. I have no idea, but it's like when they said that, what else could it possibly be?
I'm with you on that. We'll figure it out.
So yeah, it was like, hey, you can get cards that don't normally have hyperspace or foil rarities. It's like bases, leaders, take my money,
take my money.
It's a picture of that Fry meme. Just take my money.
Trust me.
All right. Well, we probably better get out of here. It's getting late, and we've been talking a long time. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been absolutely amazing. Again, we want to give a huge shout out to Fantasy Flight Games for hosting this event, bringing all these content creators together, providing swag, providing cards, providing an atmosphere, an environment that was absolutely magical. That's probably the best way to say it. And really putting their best foot forward to showcase that they want this to be something totally different than anything they've ever done. And I could truly say, I think Star Wars Unlimited and the Fantasy Flight team are really sitting on a gold mine. As long as they don't do anything silly like they have with past games, this one should really last a really long time, like much longer than Star Wars Destiny or the Star Wars LCG. And I think that's really, really exciting. Any last thoughts from y'all before we get on out of here?
I want my cards to come soon and before March because I want to play this game. So there you go.
Same here. Well, to echo Sugi's thoughts, I mean, one thing I really appreciated was the fact that a lot of games usually will put one designer up front and say, hey, this is a spokesperson. It was beautiful to sort of humanize the team and take everybody out of the cave, out of the dev cave and say, hey, no, we're going to present all of our designers, all of our marketing, all of the people on our team and let them be the face of this game. And I greatly appreciate that and being invited to that event. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I'll never forget.
All right. Well, that is the end of the show. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We want to give, again, a huge shout-out to Alchemist Refuge and John Medina for getting all of our cards. All three of us are picking up all of our cases from Alchemist Refuge. If you're listening to this and you are going to be picking up Star Wars Unlimited and you want to help support small businesses, check out alchemistrefuge.shop. We will have more information in the show notes. But that's it. We will be back with another episode in the future. So thanks for joining us. We'll see everyone next time. And remember, may the Force be with you. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of TCG Cast. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media at TCG Cast on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you're looking to pick up a brand new set of trading card game singles or accessories, go check out our sponsor, alchemistrefuge.shop. This is where we pick up all of our supplies, and we highly recommend you should too. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode. We'll see everybody next time. And remember, play games and have fun.